Well, hey everyone, welcome. We're doing another episode of our Economic Development 101 series. We've talked about some other concepts when it comes to economic development. And today we're going to zoom in on a topic. And I have a friend here, Ryan Abramson, who founded a company called Scout. And I want to just talk about the site selection process. What is a site selector? It's an integral part of economic development, but is there maybe some things that work well with that system or that don't work well? And how can we bring some change to a system that's been done the same way for a long time? So, Ryan, welcome to McKinney. Glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Could you just explain, like I'm five, what is a site selector, a site consultant when it comes to the world of economic development?
Yeah, so a site selector is a consultant and somebody that specializes in helping companies make location decisions.
Okay,
They might help analyze the workforce in a given area, they might help you activate economic incentives, and ultimately they're there to help you decide where to expand or relocate your
right.
company.
Okay, perfect. So, for example, if I was an executive at Dell or Microsoft, and we want to expand a new headquarters in another state, I would one of my first conversations would be with a site consultant.
Yeah, at these large companies like a Dell or a Microsoft or Intel,
Hmm.
you probably have a team of folks
Okay,
who can do some of the preliminary work, but ultimately a site selection consultant, they specialize in having these relationships with state and local governments. They've done thousands of these projects, so they really know how to go from site selection to site success, which is
mm.
post moving your company. Are you going to have success in that area?
Okay, so some larger companies will have internal teams that deal with it, but smaller, medium-sized companies will hire a consultant to work on their behalf to find them a new place to go.
Yeah, I'd say the big companies will have people, a team to do some of the work, and then consultants can bring them over the finish line or manage the whole project. The more small business and mid-market companies, they're actually doing a lot of this work on their own, so they can't always afford a site selector. I think the
Mm,
stat is about 50 to 60% of projects don't use a site selector at
really?
all. Yeah, it's typically the enterprise, larger companies that can afford a site selector because
Hmm.
by hiring somebody who does this every single day, you can ensure that you're going to have success versus if you have somebody internally, they might not do this all the time. You don't relocate your company 10 times a year. It's something that you might do every so often.
Would it be a fair comparison to say if I was like selling a house and I did for sale by owner versus working with a realtor? Like you can do it, but you're
You
probably
can
going to have more success with a realtor, right? Is that a similar kind of?
That's right. If you want to
Yeah,
save the money and do it on your own and do all of the research and potentially get it done successfully, then you can do it on your own. But I would say that, if you really want to make sure that it goes well, you might hire somebody that, again, does this every day.
right. Okay. So what is your personal experience with site selection? How did you kind of get involved in this world? And then would love to hear kind of the origin story of Scout and where all that came from.
Yeah, so I've been building and investing in companies the last 10 years.
Okay.
And one of these companies is a vertically integrated oatmeal brand.
Okay.
You don't hear that every day, but this company, they were at a plastics conference in Germany, and they see this booth that says Build Akron, Ohio. They go over to the booth, say, "Hey, what's Akron doing at this plastics conference in Germany?" They said, "We're here to recruit food manufacturing companies like you to do business in our city."
Okay.
And it turns out this oatmeal brand, they were expanding, and they ended up doing the second facility in Ohio. And the process was a huge success. They brought 175 new jobs to the city. They got $1 million in incentives to make the project happen, and $200,000 a month to the bottom line because of this new location advantage.
Wow.
So I'm thinking to myself, how did this happen in Germany? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be a place where this company in this city could have met online or done this digitally. Turns out there wasn't. So I spoke to 100 economic developers. I started doing site selection projects for companies in my network to really see what's happening in this industry. And it turns out it's very fragmented. There's
Yeah.
no place for cities and companies to meet. So we built Scout, which is this discovery platform for companies to find the best cities for business and for cities and EDOs to represent the uniqueness of their community.
Okay. I want to back up. So you company meets a basically a committee from Akron, Ohio in Germany. And so you're kind of watching this site selection process unfold in a company you're invested in and you're going, this is kind of a convoluted, messy process. How can we fix it? So that was more of a traditional kind of site selection
Yeah,
path?
that company did it without a site selector.
Oh, okay.
They didn't the term site selection really isn't known unless you're a company that does site selection often or you're
Right.
in the industry. Really business relocation or business expansion is what a regular company might say. And again, if you don't know the industry, you don't know site selection, you're probably doing a lot of this on your own. And if you are, there's really not a lot of resources out there to help make you successful.
Okay. So that's where Scout comes in. There's just not a lot of resources out there. How can we make a more, um, well, let me ask you this. What would be an elevator pitch of Scout? How, if you and I were in an elevator together going up 10 floors, we have 30 seconds. What do you do for a living? What's Scout?
Yeah, I just say Scout. Scout is a place that companies can find the best cities for business.
Okay.
And we also help communities showcase the uniqueness of their area through data, incentives, and reviews.
Okay. So on the consumer side or the like a business decision maker side, I would be using Scout to research various communities, and you're getting real information about those communities kind of compiled into Scout. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's right. When you're making a location decision, you need to know what's the workforce like, what's the tax climate in the city, and also what are local businesses saying? Because you can reach out to economic developers, you can reach out to folks at the city, and you can ask, "Hey, what's it like to do business in your area?" But ultimately, those people work for the city, so they think it's great.
Yeah.
But if you're the CEO of a semiconductor manufacturing company, you probably want to hear from CEOs of companies in your industry. And so with Scout, we have these reviews where we verify from local business owners and leaders what they're saying about the business climate in that community. And then we showcase that to these expanding and relocating companies.
So you're getting real feedback from real business owners who are commenting on a community that they're based in, that then other business executives, even smaller companies, could look at. You don't have to be a site selector to use Scout. Just anybody can use it and research the information for themselves. And it seems as though Scout is kind of bridging the gap between people who either aren't aware of or can't afford a site consultant, and then people who are just doing it by themselves. So you're filling that middle place.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. There's an opportunity for these companies who don't know of or can't afford site selectors, but they might be bringing 50 or 150 new jobs to a community, which is a huge deal. They just don't know what they need in order to actually make that happen.
Yeah, I remember you had a conversation with Madison Clark and myself about this platform, what, a year ago, maybe 8 months ago, and we originally were talking about utilizing it as a business retention tool to get feedback from um, existing businesses in the community, and how can we, where can we as an EDC encourage, strengthen, enhance quality of business in McKinney. But it became evident to me throughout the process of working with you and your team that this is also a marketing tool to say, look at what almost as if a Yelp, the way you would research restaurants on Yelp. And I don't mean to put you in the same category, but that's
Yeah.
the best analogy I can think of, is to say, in the same way that I would research date night restaurants for my wife on Yelp, and I would use real user feedback and photos and information to decide what's the best restaurant I want to go to. Scout provides that user generated content for companies. Is that a fair comparison?
Yeah, sometimes I will say
Oh, okay, okay.
a highly validated Yelp.
That's better, yeah.
Yelp reviews, it's pizza and hot dogs, and that's great.
Yeah.
We all want to know where the best ones are. But if you're thinking of moving your business,
Right.
that's a $100,000 to multi-million dollar move. And so you need these reviews to be verified.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who writes one on Scout, we look at their LinkedIn, we check their business email, we make sure they have an actual location in the community that they're writing a review for. So they're more validated than just a Yelp review. And there's 30 different data points that we're collecting in each of these reviews.
It's a really good point. And that's why I was hesitant to even bring up Yelp, because you can go one way or the other. People can either generate a bunch of fake positive reviews, or what's common now is review spamming. If
Yeah.
a business does something unsavory that gets caught on social media, people from all over will flock and spam that restaurant, whether or not they've ever eaten there. Versus Scout, you're verifying, okay, this is a real business owner who really exists in McKinney or Allen or wherever, and they're actually generating this review from a real human, not somebody who is wants to smear McKinney or smear whatever city.
Yeah, and you find that business owners and leaders, when they have to associate a review with their professional presence,
Ah,
they will be constructive,
for
and you
sure.
want constructive feedback. You want to know what people want to see improved in the community, but they're not there to slander the city.
Yeah,
They're really not. Again, they'll be constructive, but they're not there to be defamatory.
that's a really good point. And I think that helps too, knowing because and I'll take a step back for a second. McKinney, we're known for the Innovation Fund, among other things. But as far as the EDC, this program we started 4 years ago to pilot getting startups and tech companies. So although Scout is not based in McKinney, we saw the value in, hey, we proclaim all the time that we are very much into startups and tech companies, and we invest grants into early stage startups. And here was another opportunity on an early stage startup who was just you had just have came out with your MVP, your platform had just launched, and we decided to get involved not only because we saw the value in being on a site selection platform like Scout, but also, hey, let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's like become an early adopter of a platform that is a startup, right? We love startups. So tell me about that. How did Scout go from really good idea to becoming a startup and that whole journey?
Yeah, well, thankfully, I have experience building a review platform,
Okay.
and one where you can connect two sides, buyers of something or movers of something and sellers. So I was
Gotcha.
part of a company in the early days called G2.com. And G2 became the largest business software review marketplace. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're buying new CRM or business intelligence tools or marketing automation like you might use, Luke, you can go on G2 and read reviews from verified business
Right.
users. And so I knew how to build the foundation of Scout.
Yeah,
So
I've
that
used
was,
G2 before. So you coming from that, I mean, I've been in marketing and tech for a while, and so you know to research software platforms. So you were part of that.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. It was 10 years ago, and I was there for quite some time and
Yeah.
saw the company grow tremendously and just saw the power of customer voice, the voice
Mm,
of people who are actually doing something with the
mhm.
product. And it gives marketers like yourself a great chance to validate. And so when I met you and Madison and said, hey, you're proclaiming everywhere McKinney's great for business, I bet it is. But would you see value in
Mm,
being able to use the voice of business leaders in your community as a way to verify that it is great for business?
yeah.
And thank you for seeing the vision. I mean, it's clear that McKinney really invests in companies that have a vision and are excited to innovate in this industry. And yeah, I really appreciate your partnership in that.
Yeah, we love it. It's not hard to be involved because you see a founder who has experience, who's passionate about the product, and who's consistently improving it. And you're constantly making changes, updates. I'm like, when do these guys sleep? Like you and your
Well, we're
development
launching
team, like,
a whole new version too, so I'm
yeah.
excited to share that with you.
So a lot of times people will launch a product and that is what it is.
Yeah.
This is constantly evolving and changing for the better, to provide both a better user experience on the front end and then better management tools on the back end for communities that are utilizing Scout. So kudos to you guys on a great product. Love hearing the story of how that kind of unfolded. I want to kind of ask we've got to know Scout. I want to get to know Ryan a little bit. My
Yeah.
first question would be, how long does it take you to grow that beard?
I get it a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, when I get asked it live, I say I started last week. But no, I started growing this 10 years ago.
Okay.
And a couple of guys that I worked with, they had really good beards at the
Yeah.
time. And I said, how do you do it?
Right.
And they said, don't shave.
Just don't shave. That's
So
it.
here I am. I do trim it
Yeah,
pretty
you have
pretty
to.
regularly.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. So where are you based out of? Does a beard fit with your
it does.
city where you live?
I'm in Montana.
Okay,
I'm from
okay.
Chicago. I spend a lot of time in Montana now, but also a lot of time in Dallas because
Yeah.
we launched our platform here with communities in the Metroplex.
Hmm.
So I'm here a quarter of the time, but yeah, in the mountains in Montana.
Gotcha.
So
It's very on brand then. Yeah, the beard fits. So that's awesome. And then so you've been in this startup kind of world for how long? So it was Scout was your Scout your first venture? You mentioned you've been involved in a lot of companies. How long has that kind of
Yeah,
been your
my whole
path.
career I've been in technology companies and specifically startups. So G2 was one of the companies that I was part of the founding team at,
Okay.
and then another company called Try Now, which was in the e-commerce industry. And Scout just felt like this combination of all the things I've learned across all these companies, building, investing, and then seeing firsthand, site selection is really hard to do on your
Mm-hmm.
own. And
Mm-hmm.
so consultants are great and they're going to always have a place in this industry, but can we bring something to people that want to do this process on their own and also help communities and EDCs like McKinney get their story out there?
Yeah, no, that's really good. Do, I love hearing that Scout came from a place of like the headache. So you had this personal experience with startup, and you almost pivoted into like a site select. You're still a startup, but it's also a whole new industry you've kind of expanded into. Um, did you what when you're a little kid, little Ryan? What
Yeah.
did you dream of? Like, is that did you ever see yourself kind of going down this road, or where?
I wanted to be a marine
Oh,
biologist.
really? Okay.
No, I was always trying to create something
Right.
of value and start something myself. In college, I created a platform for fraternities and sororities to raise more money for charities they care about.
Oh,
I
nice.
saw these fraternities and sororities would go door to door asking for checks, getting event signups, and I said there should be a platform to connect these fraternities and sororities with donors and people who can make their charities more
Ah,
successful. So I've always been like trying to create something digitally to connect two sides. And when I see the problem firsthand of something happening always in person, and I love in person, like I am always trying to connect with people,
yeah.
but I do feel like a lot of these interactions can take place digitally, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I've been trying to build my career around.
That's a good point. I think digital connection works better when it's built on a personal connection. That I mean, that's why like this studio, I've done we've 14 episodes deep, and I've done 0 Zoom interviews because I
Yeah.
like the in person. There's just a different camaraderie, different chemistry. Although we could do some Zoom interviews and we could do stuff virtually, there's just something about like in the moment. And I love like when you talked about that college sorority and fraternity platform. It's almost like you observe a headache and then build the fix, like build the painkiller for it. And so, like, whatever season of your life you've been in, you're that fixer to say, like, here, I see this issue. Let me like build something that can maybe make that a little easier for the end user.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. And you're never going to replace the old way of doing it. You're going to
mm,
supplement and complement it. Like
that's a good point.
Scout, for example, we feel like it's a digital trade show
Mm,
because economic development and site selection. We talked about Germany, Akron, Ohio,
mm-hmm,
the oatmeal company. That happened in person,
mm-hmm.
and that's not going to go away. They're still going to go to these
No,
conferences, but can we bring another layer to that where we could help them get more opportunities on both sides without them having to fly to Europe to do so?
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think you said something earlier, taking a process from selection to success.
Yeah.
And so, Scout's just here to play another, part of that. So
Yeah, and I
that's,
appreciate you helped me see that like in the beginning we really did see it just as BRE
mm-hmm,
for EDCs and EDOs to get feedback from local businesses and use that to drive their strategic plans. But very soon we realized, hey, this is great marketing content.
mm-hmm,
Like nobody tells the story better than a local business or a business leader in the community.
yeah,
And that can fuel your recruitment efforts.
mm-hmm,
Instead of saying, hey, McKinney's great for business, you say, don't trust us, trust business leaders.
right.
Here's why we're great.
Yeah, some of my most well-received marketing content in the last 6 months has been user-generated review content that we just put in a social media graphic and post on our LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and those really connect with people because we could sit here and say all day like McKinney's the best. Well, of course, I'm getting paid to say that,
Yeah.
but a business owner, they're gonna hate it or love it regardless, based on their experience, and they're gonna speak their mind hopefully. So you really can't trust those, and it's really been cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a pioneer and helping us usher in this new innovation in the
Oh
industry.
yeah, we're big Scout fans. So man, thanks for being here. What are some ways I could connect with you if I wanted to get more involved or follow you or stay tuned with what Scout is doing or what Ryan's doing? How do I get to know
Yeah,
you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn, so definitely connect with me and follow me there. My email is ryan@scoutcities.com, and our website is scoutcities.com.
Perfect. Well, man, thanks again for coming. Thanks for being here. Hope you get some good barbecue while you're in Texas the next few days?
Always Hutchins.
That's right. Good
And on my
answer.
way in, I drove past a stadium backlit with beautiful blue lights, and I'm like, is there a pro football team in McKinney? I looked it up. It's the high school
Yeah,
team.
the
So
McKinney
it's
ISD Stadium. Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah, it's crazy. Texas football, man, is no joke.
Yeah, so
So
maybe I'll have to get a tour of the stadium. It's worthy for
yeah,
sure.
come
It's
back in
really
September
nice.
for a game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's game changing. It's like eye-opening experience being a Texas high school football game on Friday night.
Can't imagine.
So, well, thanks for being here again, and I'll put the links to all of your connections, LinkedIn, email, all that stuff in the comments or in the notes for this video. And thanks for tuning in for another great episode of our Economic Development 101. Hope you learned something today. And if you really connect with any of the site selection process, or if you own a business in McKinney and want to leave a review, we'll put all the links to all that stuff on Scout, and would love for you to be connected with what Ryan and the Scout team are doing. Ryan, thanks again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.